So, welcome, podcasters. This is your host, Mimi Jackson. I want to thank you all for tuning in to season 2 of MProper Mimi. We are kicking it off, and I'm here with my girl, Demelza, and she is with Parental Wealth. And I would love, Demelza, for you to just talk to the crew today about, Improper Mimi, we talk about all kind of things that empower women at home, work, and play. And so this topic that we're going to talk about today, parental wealth, we're going to talk about our parents retiring. But I want you to tell us a little more, Demelza, about yourself, about what it is that you do, and why this information is so important.
Absolutely. Hey, what's going on, fam? My name is Demelza Campbell, and I am the Retirement Money Kid. I am the CEO of Parental Wealth, where we talk money, build wealth, and talk money and build wealth with our retired parents. So I'm really excited to be here talking to Mimi's listeners. So thank you so much for inviting me on. I truly, truly appreciate it.
Oh, definitely, girl. But I saw the work that you were doing and the important information you were sharing with everyone. I'm like, okay, this is relevant. This is like things that people may not always be thinking about. It's like, how is our parents' retirement and how they set up their retirement impact us? Like, how does that really, affect us as, working adults or, just even being their children? And so, what are some of the things that you kind of talk about when you get people to look at this new mindset of really
Right.
understanding, you know?
The first thing that I really tell people is how absolutely petrified I was back in the day when I found out that my parents were so deep in debt while they were
Mm.
retired. I had visions of like my mama up in my house, rearranging my kitchen and not having anything to myself again because I thought, like, hey, if they are this much in debt, they're going to end up living with me. Oh my God, my
Right.
single life, because at the time I was single, my single life is over as I know it. What am I going to do? Right. And
Right.
it wasn't even until I did some deep digging that I became exactly as aware of how deep
Mhm.
in the hole they were and what some of the sincere challenges that they were having with money. When my parents retired,
Yeah.
here's the thing. My mom retired first. She retired in 2001. Let me tell you how she was hustling. She
Oh.
had been working at the same organization since she was 16 years old. And then she
Oh
retired in
my.
2001, right before the
Mhm.
recession that came with 9/11. Right. So
Mhm.
she got like this beautiful package, and she had effectively been retired for about 15 years at that point. But then she never stopped spending the way that she had always spent when she was
Yeah.
working, right?
Mm.
And my dad, he had just retired, I want to say a couple of years earlier. He also didn't stop spending the way
Right.
he had spent when he was working. On top of that, I found out that when they decided to buy their retirement home, they actually they cracked their piggy bank. They cracked open their 401k early.
Mm.
And that
Mhm.
meant they actually had to pay penalties.
It back. Oh,
Right. And I
penalty.
was
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, I'm so confused. Like, how did this happen? You know what I mean? Like, I
Right.
was just like, how come you owe so much in taxes? You know what I mean? And it got worse,
Yeah.
right? Because they moved from one state to another. So then they owed back
Mm.
taxes to that state. And they ended up owing, I believe they ended up owing the state of Connecticut, they ended up owing the state of Virginia, and then they ended up
Mm.
owing the IRS. So if you want to say like the perfect storm of, oh my God, my life is over, that was kind of it for me. It was like,
Yeah.
you owe too many like big ticket folks. Like you owe two states and the federal government, and that freaks me out. And then on top of
Wow.
that, you are spending money to such an extent because, little things, right? Like,
Mhm.
you know, they were spending money, Costco card. You
Mhm.
would think, oh,
All these
Costco, right?
subscriptions. Yes. Mhm.
Costco. Well, Costco does gas, right? They do gas, and they do gas
Yeah.
on their Costco card for credit, but you get 5% back.
Mm-hmm.
on that Costco card, right? 5% back every year. Well, when I looked at how much money was on this Costco card for gas, and I looked at the APR, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So it was just this really perfect storm of
Wow.
penalties and owing different folks. There were other areas where they owed money, and it really just came to a whopping $86,000. And
Wow.
for me, I was like, how are you paying this? I
And
it,
even how do you even find out? Because I mean, listen, we're grown adults, but we're still their children. Like that, even finding out
yeah.
that they're in debt is a process, you know? It's
Yes,
like,
it was a process. And I want to make sure I tell you that it did not start off pretty. it was, hey, why is dad working so much? He's
yeah, right?
part-time. And why won't you pay bills online? Why are you still mailing the bills? And my parents were
Hmm.
like, I think any, you know, uh, honestly, Black parent, and they pretty much said, we got this. Don't worry about it. And I was
Right.
like, nah, I'm gonna worry about it. Like something's wrong. And they
Yeah.
told me again, they were like, well, don't worry about it. It's not your concern. And I'm like, well, if you can't take care of this, then this means that you live with me. So that means that then it becomes my concern. So how about we figure this out now instead of like
Together.
when you got to live in my basement? Because I love you, but I don't want to live with you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
And people don't always, I'm sorry, people
no, go
don't
ahead.
always even think about that because they're like maybe so focused on their own struggles, on their own day to day, on their own check to check and taking care of their kids. But we know that the older we get, that taking care of our parents comes into our peripheral as well.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
so
yeah. So you become like the sandwich.
yeah.
They call that the sandwich generation, right? Like, so I know for
Mm-hmm.
myself right now, I don't even have a goldfish. So I can't even imagine being in a situation where I'm worried about
Yeah.
like my kids' daycare, and then I'm
Mm-hmm.
worried about like the costs for taking care of my parents. Where I know, on average, for a semi-permanent room in a nursing home, it can cost
Mm-hmm.
you $6,800 a month. Like, sis, that is like a study in New York, DC, and LA. That's
All together, yes, for
all
1 month.
together per month. And it's
Oh no.
semi-permanent. It's not even like semi-private. So it's not even a private room. And it's like, woo, $6,800. Just, for say for 3 years. That's $246,000 for
That's
three
too
years.
much. Yeah.
You see why I got scared?
Yeah.
I got scared. So scared. It was all about self-preservation.
Ain't nothing wrong with that,
None
because
of
if
it.
you fail to plan, then that's when you're going to fail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And oh my God, did I answer your question? Because I apologize. Because you asked me a question and I feel like I totally lost it going down the rabbit hole.
No, yeah, we got it. We got it. Because, yeah, you were telling us all about why it is so important that we need to take this into consideration because even, that long-term care for our parents, like
Mhm.
thinking about how they're going to take care of themselves. So you're right. So yeah, you were breaking it down for us how like you found out how much debt your parents were in,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
then you set in motion to help them fix that.
I did. I did. So I want to make sure people know I have the most typical Black parents that you could ever understand, right? I have a Southern daddy and a very liberal Northeastern independent
Hmm.
mama. And, it was a process to get them to open the books so that I could really see what was
Yeah.
going on with the money. And even then, it was a process to get them to tell me all the details because they would like
Right.
tell me one piece, but not like all of it. It was like, oh no, well, that came from this issue. Oh, okay. But you still have more money here. So where that piece come from? Oh, that came from another issue. I was like, well, why don't you just tell me this up front? Oh, well, you
Right.
didn't ask. And I'm like, okay, okay, that's fair. I did not ask, right? And
Yeah.
it was just very much a process where I sat with my parents. The thing in my household is when
Hmm.
we ate breakfast or dinner together. We ate it as a family.
Oh,
Every important conversation that has happened in my house has happened at a kitchen table, right? Like
nice. Yeah. Hmm.
there's no TV, no noise. It's going down. We need to talk, right? And so
Yeah.
what I started doing was I started going home more often. I would drive to their house and I would
Hmm.
have breakfast with them. And I'm like, so here's the deal. We need to do something about this. And they're like, we're fine. No, no, you're not. You're not fine. Like, I know
Hmm.
you're not fine. Daddy's working 60 hours a week. Ma, you're stressed out. This is not what retirement's supposed to be. I always had this vision that retirement
Yeah.
was like you're drinking out of champagne glasses and you're sailing the Riviera on a boat
Yeah.
or a yacht, not a boat, a yacht. And I want that for you, even if you don't like boats, which they don't, not really.
Hmm.
But I want that sense of freedom and independence. And that's
Yeah.
not what you have. What you're doing is you're stressed out. And it gave
Hmm.
me the reminder of what happened with my grandmother
Hmm.
when she took on the responsibility of so many family members and the cost of so many family members when I was younger. And it stressed her out. She didn't travel,
Wow.
she didn't enjoy
Hmm.
herself. It was just the responsibility of extended family and the costs associated with that. And that's just not
Yeah.
something that I wanted for my parents.
Yeah, and that could just go on and on, So, I think it's just so important that people understand and that think about it now, like this, well, 2020 was one hell of a year.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
we are, kicking it off 2021 now, we're in our Black History Month now,
We got a
getting
new
ready to
administration.
That's right. We'll see.
Woo-hoo.
We got his little report card out, see how he does in these first
Yes,
90
ma'am.
days or
Yes,
so.
ma'am.
But I mean, just even with everything that has happened with the Black community, with Black women in general, I mean, even a lot of the unemployment has been women.
Right.
So there's a lot of stresses going on, a lot of
Mhm.
stresses, a lot of things that people are thinking about.
Right.
So I just feel so strongly that the more we're educated on what to look for and how to, kind of prevent and how to plan for some of this long term for our parents, it also is going to help us ourselves, how we from now can start planning our own retirement, so that
Yeah.
our children don't have to come into this, same issues, that we may be encountering with our parents now.
Right.
Um,
Just imagine, right? So you have
yeah.
done all of this work to become financially independent, to be able to say, I am my
Hmm.
own boss 24/7, right? Like my
Right.
finances are great. I have my nest egg that I'm drawing my quote unquote 4% down on annually, according to like that, FI kind of, numbers out there. And then
Yes.
all of a sudden, you turn around and find out that because your mom can no longer take care of herself, you've got to jump into action. And look, as Black
Hmm.
women, we are used to taking on a
Taking
lot.
care of.
Take
Hmm.
whatever happens, I swear, we are the embodiment of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. We're the embodiment of all three with a dash of Wolverine in there for any of my Marvel
Girl.
fans. Okay. So
Yes.
when there is a problem, we solve it. But
Hmm.
usually that is at great cost to us mentally, spiritually, and definitely financially. So imagine you've got all of this taken care of, and then
Yeah.
now you have to spend this money on a parent because, oh, you know what? I took care of my money, but I
Hmm.
didn't think to take care of or even check on my parents' money, right? Or
Yeah.
check on my parents to see, hey, what are your strategies? Let's
Hmm.
share strategies. So I'll tell you what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
maybe you can tell me what you're doing so that we can make sure that not just I'm good and not just you're good, but we, the family, are good.
Exactly. Because it's that perseverance that the family grows and, that legacy is built together. Some people talk about
Absolutely.
intergenerational wealth or even generational wealth. But it's kind of important to understand the difference and
Oh,
exactly what it is.
huge difference. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that right now there's a big, not even right now, it's been at least for the last 3 to 5 years, huge push. Oh, generational wealth. I'm going to set my kid up to make sure that they can go to college for free, that they don't have to carry
Mm-hmm.
any debt, that they're going to have a house, that they're going to have all of the things that I was unable to have, right? Like a lot of that is pushing money down. You're not looking behind you. You're not looking at like that. To me is like it's a gap, right?
It's a
It's
weak
a
spot.
because it's
Yeah.
an opportunity that to really lose money because we're not
Mm-hmm.
anticipating that our parents are going to age. On average, 70% of seniors need long-term care. Like,
Yeah.
not to say it boldly, but unless they pass, they're going to live. And when they live,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to get older and more frail, and
You
when you
need more
become more
care.
frail, you need more care.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I don't think anybody really on the surface wants to think about that when it comes to
Yeah.
their parents, because our parents are superheroes in many
Mm-hmm. There are hearts,
instances,
everything.
right? I can't even imagine
Yeah.
that. At the same time, I'm very aware of it. And I'm like, let's plan for it. Let's
Yeah.
plan for this to happen. And I told my parents this one time during a meeting. I was like, look, I don't want you to just have a good life. I want you to have a good death. And a good death
Mm.
to me is that you are as in control of everything for as long as possible. What do
That's
you
right.
think? And they were
Mm-hmm.
like, no, I like that. I like that. I like that a lot.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Your
To me,
home, your health, your
right.
wealth, like you want to be in charge of it as long as possible,
Long as
you know?
possible. I want you to tell me what you want. I need to know what you want
Mm-hmm.
me to do with the house, how you want,
Yeah.
what are your wishes? And we need to document this and we need to know and we need to update it annually. Is this still the
Yeah.
same? Has it changed? Just things that make them feel secure, but they also make me feel secure because I know I am
Yeah.
doing what they want and not what I want. So I think that that's just a really important part of the process. And that honestly, you'll hear me talk about building wealth. Wealth is not just money when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to parental wealth, it's also that connection, it's that interaction. When we start talking money, oh boy, you get into some sensitive areas.
Yeah.
Sensitive areas, and these sensitive areas allow you in, like, look, you can either have the door closed or you can help open, prop, elbow, knee the
Get
door,
in there.
get in there. But when you become comfortable talking about money, so I've been doing it with my parents for about 6+ years now,
Oh, good.
nothing affects us, right? Like,
Right?
we'll talk about family members that pass. I watched Bridgerton with my daddy
I was just
on
about to
Netflix.
say, right?
It was
If
just
you could
funny.
talk about money, then you could watch all the sex
You
scenes,
can watch all
nothing,
the
nothing
sex
phases
scenes and
you.
you're with your dad and you're like, yo, dad. He's like, yeah, no, yeah. And I'm just like, I'm not
Yeah.
embarrassed
Hmm.
by this. This is like, normally you would be embarrassed. But you
Yeah.
talk about money, you talk about sensitive things. People are more protective of their
Oh, yeah.
decisions with money than they are
Mm-hmm.
even with like sex. Okay. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's just a lot of emotional energy and
Yeah.
vulnerabilities and just pain surrounding money. Whereas folks will talk about all the rest
Yeah.
quite
I mean,
easily.
like we said, our parents are our superheroes. Like when they're raising us and we were growing up, money wasn't talked about. This is grown folks' business.
Oh,
You need to
oh
stay
yeah.
out of grown folks'
You go to the
business,
little
okay?
kids table and you better stay over there while we over here playing our
Right?
pinochle or
Yeah.
pokino. Okay, this is the grown folks table. I brought out the pokino, right? You ain't heard that in a minute.
I ain't heard that in a minute, man.
I
They didn't even
know.
teach me bid whist. I was like, I feel jaded.
Ooh, oh man, I,
I'm
I don't
like,
even think I could ever listen. Spades is like the bid whist of our generation. It's like,
right. I
it
had
is.
spades, they taught us these other games, but I'm like, wait a minute, y'all know how to play bid whist, but you didn't teach me and my brother and my
Mm-mm,
sister. I'm like, I,
mm-mm.
I
It
feel,
wasn't
I
on
feel some
that
kind of
level.
way.
Wasn't on that level. That's really what they were
We wasn't
saying.
grown,
We wasn't grown yet.
Yeah, but now we're grown, and now my daughter is grown. My daughter is like 26 or 27. I don't
I
know, by the
remember
time this
when
comes
she was
out.
a little one. I was like, Lord, we're so old right now. I remember seeing pictures
Yes.
from way back in the day. So, like, for the listeners, I met Mimi when we were in college.
Yes.
I'm not going to say the year. Okay. No, I'm going to say the year
Yeah.
98. That is when I
Mm.
met Mimi, LA, Anaheim, Nesby, Region 6.
Right, right.
And I remember seeing a picture of you and your daughter, and she was like a wee one. And
Yeah.
now she's like this whole independent woman. And I'm just like, we are
Yeah.
still fine. So I'm not worried about it. Like, right? Because Black
Oh,
women
girl, we
age
look
so
good.
well. I know. We just, we just look at
People
this.
think she's my sister, like,
Right.
okay.
Like, people still think my mom is like 45. I'm like, nah, she's not, but thank you. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you, ancestors.
Exactly. And now here I am talking to her about finances and voting and like life and like understanding things and like it's eye-opening, but
Right.
it is necessary, to, even let her know, how much I make, like what's my salary, like,
Right.
okay, you tell me yours, I'll tell you mine.
But that's the same thing with parents. It's so
Yeah.
necessary, right? Like, so imagine if your parent retired 5, 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
maybe their thought process regarding investments, savings, all of that, it might have stopped 5 or
Right.
10 years ago. Like, there might not have been a incentive to continue
Mm-hmm.
learning. Now they're like, well, I'm retired now. Now I'm trying to figure out my life
Yeah.
retired, right? In
Mm-hmm.
terms of retirement. And what I found with my parents is before they retired, I I'm not going to say that they always listened to me, but occasionally they would, because that's not true. But
Mm-hmm.
occasionally they would say, that's not a bad idea. Let's do it. When my mom retired, I was like, look, you got all this money, you should invest it. I was like,
Yeah.
here's the number of a investor from one of the big five, right, out of New York.
Yeah.
And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know what you do with your money. You a grown woman, but I still think you should invest it. It shouldn't just sit in a bank account because it's not going to really accrue that much interest. For
Yeah.
you, like investments are
Mm-hmm.
better. And that's what they did. She invested her money. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I really used the fact that, hey, look, I love you. And I'm not
Exactly.
going to tell you anything that
Mm-hmm.
would steer you wrong. This is important and we have to work on this. It's not even a choice. We have to
Right.
work on this. And that, I think, was what got through to them more than anything else. That and a really, excuse me, that and a really healthy dose of stubbornness. I
Mm-hmm.
am my parents' child, and I was like, I will be here every weekend until
Right.
you say yes. And they were like, look, I'm like, no, you do not. And so we need to do this. So you can
Mm-hmm.
either set a meeting with me or you're going to
Yeah.
see me as much as possible. And they were
And they're like, yo, we're trying to enjoy our retirement. So stay away. Like, just
right,
leave
just
us.
a
We
little,
want the
right?
empty house.
Just a little. And they were just like, okay, well, fine. We'll have a meeting. I was like, great, great, great. So I need to see your
Oh,
bank
yeah.
statements. Just
And
kept
see, not
pushing.
right. You have to keep pushing. And for some of the listeners, pushing our parents may not be the easiest thing. Like sometimes they're going to need some help with that. They're going to need some
Yes.
guidance of like what to do, how to do it, like where do we even start,
Okay, well, listen, I mean, shameless plug, follow at parental_wealth on IG. I am also on Clubhouse,
That's right.
y'all. I'm also on
Ooh,
Twitter, Pinterest, and I have a website, parentalwealth.com.
that's
Shameless
right.
plug. But the reason why I say that is because I do notice that I'm maybe talking about things that a lot of people aren't aware of. I did
Mm.
recently a deep dive into kind of behavioral finance. Except I didn't
Mm-hmm.
call it behavioral finance, right? Because on Instagram, you know, that's just not happening.
It,
But
yeah.
I talk about the fact that your parents can want to live a better life or take care of their finances or get
Mm-hmm.
things, you know, fixed up for themselves and still spend or splurge or do the wrong thing because at the end of the day, they are bringing the experiences that they have from childhood on
Yeah.
up. So we're talking 60 years in many instances. And that can kind of override the logic of changing how they do their finances, right? So
Yeah.
instead,
Mm-hmm.
you got to find little things that make it easy for them to say yes because
Mm-hmm.
they're familiar with it. So I know that some folks have decided, like, when they have a close friend or family member who might pass away, and maybe that close friend or family member, when they pass away, there's not enough money to bury them,
Mm-hmm. It happens a lot.
or it's
Mm-hmm.
too much. It happens too much.
Yeah.
I mean, and we can have a whole conversation about funding funerals online.
Exactly.
That's another conversation. Not going to talk about that right
Mm-hmm.
now. But um, there's an inherent fear around that, right? Like, you
Yeah.
know, there's not enough to take care of you. Is this the reality that you want? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and asking them something that you already kind of know the answer to, right? Because they're already showing you that they don't
Yeah.
like it. And that is a way you can kind of shoehorn your way in by asking
Mm-hmm.
open ended questions and not being judgmental with those open ended questions. I think part of the challenge is, especially for women our age, right? Like
Yeah.
we have worked hard to get to where we are today,
Say it
to
again. Yes.
have the things let me say it again. We have worked hard to have our homes, to have our
Yeah.
experiences, to travel, to be able to take care of ourselves, to have spa days, whatever it is, right?
Girl. Yeah.
We have worked hard for those things, but our parents have also worked equally hard for the things that they have
Mm-hmm.
and the life that they want to have
Yeah.
or continue. And the key is finding out what those things are that matter the most to them and being
Mm-hmm.
able to communicate with them as easy as possible with no judgment. You can't sit here and judge mama's
No.
money choices from the last
You ain't
20
getting anywhere
years.
with that.
No,
Mm-hmm.
you won't listen. Mama's gonna say step to the left. You
Yeah. Most likely those things that she did and those sacrifices she made is for you. She
say
did
it
it for the
again.
family,
Say it
right?
again.
She did it to take
Exactly.
care of the kids and make sure you had
Mm-hmm.
food and clothes and make sure
Right.
baby went to school,
Right.
got that degree.
Right. Right.
So there's so much that our parents, have sacrificed for
And they don't
us.
tell us. They don't
Yeah,
tell us. They just do
they
it. It's
really
just a
don't.
part of.
Yeah.
It's just what they do. And
Hmm.
you're a parent, Michelle. I
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
know that it had to be hard as I don't know what. Like I believe you were in
Right.
school full time, had a baby girl, just
Hmm.
and I'm
Oh.
sure she knew not a single thing of the nights where you probably went into the closet and cried by yourself but
Uh-huh.
didn't want her to know about it. And that is very reflective of our parents' experience. So when you go in and
Yeah.
say, well, hey mom, um, you should be able to do this if you cut out all the Starbucks and you only eat at home for the next year and you only do this. I did it, so you should do it too. I'm telling you right now, you don't already lost that conversation. It's done.
It's like
Done.
whoop, right over the head,
Gone.
you know? Mm-hmm. Be like, don't tell me what to do. I know what to do. Like I've gotten to, and they're feeling the same way. They've gotten to this point in their life where now they can enjoy doing what they want to do.
Right.
Be like, yeah, I worked hard all those years. So now I want to go to Starbucks, every Friday or, whatever it used to be or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or, maybe I want to renovate, do some different things in the house and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you bring up so many good points because these are things that I haven't thought of before. And these are definitely things like my siblings and I need to talk to my parents about. It's like things look great, but you never know because as parents, part of our job is to make sure that things look great, make sure that you don't see the bumps and the things, the
Mm-hmm.
struggles that we're going through, because we want you to know that we're knowledgeable, we know what we're doing, and we don't want
Right.
you to see like some of those things, those faults or those disconnects, those
Right.
gaps that we haven't thought about. So, um, I mean, being able to know like how they're spending, what they actually have saved, you know, and we used to think having a will was a big thing. Be like, oh yeah, they good, they got a will. There's a whole lot more. People are living longer now.
Yeah.
So a will is
A
great
lot
and
longer.
necessary, but what about that time between retirement and until you need to execute that will?
Well,
I'm living,
well, you
parents are
know what?
living.
That is a good point, right? Because folks are like, look, we got a will, we good. And I'm like, so, I
Hmm.
mean, that just really says when they die or they're like
Yeah.
really infirm, maybe dealing with health issues
Mm,
like dementia or Alzheimer's,
yeah.
or God forbid, an accident, you know what I mean, and unable to take care of themselves. I was like, all right, well, that's for when they die.
Hmm.
Retirement planning is for when they're alive.
Yes. Living,
It's
living.
like, it's for when they can literally like, what's the retirement lifestyle that you want to have? I know that
Yeah.
I brought up with my parents like pre-COVID. We
Hmm.
were talking about, I asked a question. So, hey, what do you guys think about spending 16 weeks traveling a year? And they were
Hmm.
like, what? And I'm like, if you save enough money, we can plan for you to spend 16 weeks a year traveling. You can
Ah.
go to the ancestral home. That's my grandmama's home. You can go to Yankee games. You can go to
Hmm.
jazz festivals. And it doesn't have to be the whole, you know, 4 months
In a
consecutively. It
row.
can be
Yeah.
broken up. I was like, the point
Yeah.
here, though, is that you would be able to travel more. If you want to drive the country, you want to rent an RV, because my daddy knows how to
Hmm.
drive buses. So I was like, you want to
Oh
rent an
yeah.
RV? I'll catch a flight and meet y'all somewhere. But,
Right. Let you guys enjoy the beauty of the
you
nature
guys
of the
enjoy it.
world on the
This
road.
is, I have so many scars from all the road trips that I had to go on with my parents. That I'm like, I can fly. And they're like, no, drive with us. And I'm like, I don't want to. It's 24 hours. And they still make me
Oh,
do it. But it's
yeah.
actually, now it's funny because we laugh about all the jokes. Anyway, I digress.
Girl, we're about to digress really, because I'm like, what's the furthest you've driven with them on a road trip?
24 hours. 24 hours, Connecticut to Florida.
Wow.
And then on top of
Nice.
that, because my father was raised in the South, and I didn't realize it at the time, he would not stop unless it was for gas. And when
Oh,
you
that's
got
what we
gas,
do.
it was for food. You went to the bathroom, you got
Yeah.
food, and you got gas. And that was it. And back in the day, I thought my father was just doing that to make me miserable. But now, as an adult, I realized, growing
Hmm.
up in the South, growing up in the Jim Crow South, right?
Yeah.
He was very aware that every stop is not welcoming. So
Uh-huh.
we kept it trucking, right? Like, folks
Right.
are very familiar with the Green Book, the Negro Green Book. Yeah, no, the Green
Hmm.
Book, the
Yeah.
Negro
To
Guide
travel.
to
Hmm.
Travel, Lovecraft Country, God, Lord have mercy, an amazing series.
Yeah.
But it just really drove home how much my father was in protection mode, and we were not gonna stop for
Hmm.
any, ridiculous reason.
No, unless
So
it was necessary. Hmm.
this just, when I look at that, like, that is what my dad
Yeah.
did for me. My mom offered to have me move back in the house when I got laid off in 2009. And that, in
Hmm.
2009, I got laid off for 11 months. I look at my mom and her willingness to do that. My mom would make me barbecue
Hmm.
ribs and put it in parquet tubs and ship it to me at school, or give it to me when I was laid
Oh,
off. She's like,
yes.
come home, get some food, and go back. I look at that,
Yeah.
and I look at the fact that you're going to tell me that I can't sacrifice some Saturdays and some weekends
Hmm.
and have these conversations and figure out some numbers with you to make sure that you are living your best retired life. Get out of
Yeah.
here. Like, you
Hmm.
guys, did so much, taking out loans for me for college, doing like
Yeah.
helping my father when I got laid off. My car
Mhm.
died, and I
Oh Lord.
needed a car. And my father went into one of his accounts because he's a black man. And he has like 50 million accounts spread across the
Thank God
entire
he's got a bank account and it's not in the mattress.
girl. Actually,
Oh girl.
yeah.
Okay.
So, but the bigger point is that I look at how much my parents have loved on me, and
Yes.
I
Priceless.
see it as my honor to love on
Mm.
them as much as possible, especially as they get older. Like they are
Yeah.
treasures to me. I am obsessed with
Mm-hmm.
the stories that my father shares with me now about how he grew up and his experiences with his family, and
Yeah.
that my mom shares with me now too.
I mean, it really is. I mean, our parents, my parents are so endearing to me now. I enjoy those conversations with
My
them,
God.
the time spent with them,
Mhm.
and even now the time apart from them, it
Yeah,
just, hits home and punches a different way, where you want to be with them. You want to know that they're okay. You want to understand what it is that they're going through and do whatever you can to help them. So
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And I think that these are the things, that the listeners need to take hold of, to remember. These are some of the things that, they can reach out to Demelza, like we said, parentalwealth.com, find her everywhere,
Absolutely.
Twitter,
Absolutely.
Instagram, go right to the website and go from there. And you can look at her blog, look at her newsletter, get signed up, so you get all the information and and other activities that you have coming up, throughout
Oh yeah, so
the
I've
rest of the
discovered
month.
Clubhouse, and so now I'm kind of like, oh, I might try and do a little bit on that. I'm really enjoying just connecting with people and talking about aspects of retirement that they're just not as aware of, right? Like,
Right.
and that's why I call myself the retirement money kid. Like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
retired, right? And typically, folks think that that means that I'm referring to my retirement, like
Yeah.
financial independence, retire early. But I'm really talking about financial independence after retirement. I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
identifying ways, or excuse me, retirement planning for our parents that work for them, not just working for me, because it's going to work for
Yeah.
me no matter what. If my mom and dad are happy, that works for me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, like, God forbid, should something ever happen, like if something ever happened to my job, and I know my mom and dad are good, like, I know they got me, right? And it's the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
thing. Like, I'm good, they're good, we take care of each other. And that to us really is the value of intergenerational wealth. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
focusing on the next generation, it's focusing on 3 generations, right? Because
Yeah.
what happens with our parents, right, can very much be an indicator of what happens to our kids in terms of how much
Yeah.
wealth that they have. And our parents provide wealth to our kids in multiple different ways. They pay
Yeah.
for weddings in terms
Mm-hmm.
of
They
like
help.
gifts, they help
Mm-hmm.
with education, they help
Yeah.
with inheritance, excuse me, an inheritance or wealth transfer. Like, so if
Mm-hmm.
I set up my parents, I know that it's going to benefit my family. I'm just choosing not to benefit when they pass per se. I want to
Right.
benefit while they're here, and I want
Mm-hmm.
them to benefit as well by having a long life and effectively longevity.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's what we all want, right? Whether you're cool with your fam or not, nobody really wishes ill will to their family. Like,
Right,
I want the best for you. I want you to
right.
live the best life. And that means that even after working is done, when
Mhm.
you're retired and I want you to live your best life.
100%.
Um, and I want, and like you say, intergenerationally, not just my daughter. I want her to know and understand the things I'm going through so she can protect and start doing her investments now, but also what my parents went through and what,
Yes.
it's both ways, like you say, forward and backwards. We're looking
I
everywhere,
mean,
head on a swivel.
there's a reason why our European brethren, uh, you have families that go back 200 and 300 years
Mm,
that have somehow managed to keep wealth there. Like, don't get me wrong, I want to acknowledge the fact that, it's a little bit different if you are of
mm.
the diaspora, right? Like, way too much history. Like, retirement was never created for us to have. We were effectively somebody else's retirement ticket. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right.
our ancestors' bodies were literally what retirements were built on. So
Mm-hmm.
let's keep it, like, let's be clear. Like, retirement was not built for us to
It's
take
a
advantage
luxury.
of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at our European brethren that have experienced retirement for generations, and their strategies, right, the strategies that
Mm-hmm.
they use, you can't really expect for us to just use their strategies and then have some expectation that we're going to be
Yeah.
successful when their strategies are built on generational and intergenerational wealth transfer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't
They got a
have
pipeline.
that. We
Mm-hmm.
literally do not have that. And so, knowing that, we have to look at or peel away some of that colonizer thought process. Yes, I said that. Yes, Shuri all day,
Colonizer,
every day.
colonizer.
But it's like we have to kind of decolonize retirement. We have to take
Yeah.
these ideas that are so associated with it because it's associated with the majority, not
Right.
associated with the minority. And we really have to kind of chart our own course, which is part of the reason why I really focus on intergenerational wealth. And I
Yeah.
really push back hard on this whole idea of, oh, well, when my parents get older, our roles will reverse. They become the child and I become the parent. Can you hear the sarcasm in my voice? Um, there's like this whole thing for that. And I'm like, are you stupid? Like, and I don't really mean to ask, are you stupid? Because that's rude. But are you
Mm.
stupid? This is not a child. This is a fully formed individual. Unless they are experiencing health
Yeah.
issues, they have a history with money. They have experiences with money. They have
Right.
experiences living life. You don't decide to make them an infant so that now you feel in control. And that is something that I will tell folks to their
Mm.
face. You have
Mm-hmm.
to figure out a way to partner with them. You have to be a key independence driver and a partner. You can be
Yes.
an adult child, but for us here in Parental Wealth, no, we are kids. We're key independence drivers. We are partnering
Mm-hmm.
with our parents. We are not making them feel what is that word, infantilizing. I
Oh,
can't say that
emphasizing them.
word.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, but you get what I'm saying. Like, we are not going to make them a child so that we are now in control of the situation. No, you're not in control of the situation. You're in
Right.
control of the situation when you are managing your relationship with your parent. And I know that for some people, that's very hard. Guess what? There are all these professionals in the whole wide world that can help you.
Mm.
Get you a fee only certified financial planner, get you an estate lawyer, or get you an accountant, get you a
Right.
retirement money kid. Hi.
Mm.
You know what I
Hey.
mean? Like, have that independent perspective to act as a buffer. I'm in no way expecting you to do everything, but I am expecting you to become more aware. And that is part of the
Mm.
reason why I
Mm-hmm.
really talk about parental wealth, is because I was very unaware and I didn't have
Yeah.
no help. And I literally was just like, what am I doing? Well, let me spend the next 2 years doing this the wrong way. And then I got it right for the next 4 years.
Right. It just took a little time there, but that's blood, sweat, and tears and times that you put into it,
How many tears?
benefiting your own family so that then you can turn around and help others and you can spread the wealth, the knowledge. Knowledge is key.
It is.
Knowledge is
Absolutely.
indispensable. Wow. Man, so I just want to thank you so much. I know we're going to get ready to wrap up here, and I just want to thank you so much for bringing these issues and topics to light so that more people can hear and learn about and think about preparing for how their parents are going to survive and thrive during their
Yes.
retirements, and
Yes.
how that affects and impacts us as their children, as their kids. I saw you threw that, that line in there, KID. What's that,
Yeah,
kids,
yeah. Key independence drivers. We're kids. Yes, of course.
Independence
I
drivers.
try. I try.
Yes.
But we're not children, and neither are they. And
Mm-hmm.
so we get to figure out, like, no, we get to talk. And sometimes that
Yeah.
is just, I don't want to sit here and act like all relationships are rosy. I don't want to sit here
Mm-hmm.
and act like every parent is going to listen to you, because that's not necessarily the case. But
Yeah.
there are things that you get to do, at least try. And if it doesn't work, you can still be consistent in how you show
Right.
up with your parents. And they
Mm-hmm.
can see that you are consistently doing this, not trying, didn't work, decided to give up, right? Like, you want
Right.
to go ahead and do that. And you, of course, want to also protect yourself. You want to make sure you're not doing anything that will
Yeah.
have you obligated to your parents' debt. And I think that that's something that you really want to be aware of. If maybe
Mm-hmm.
your relationship with your parent is not that great, you want to do that. And you also want to look to see if your parent would be willing to do another form of life insurance, so that at the
Yeah.
very least there might be some death benefits, or some insurance, or excuse me, some benefits in terms of long-term care. So maybe they
Yes.
don't want to talk to you, but maybe they might be willing to sign on a dotted line for insurance, and you
Mm-hmm.
pay for it every month. Whatever you do, make sure that you talk to an insurance professional regarding that, so
Right.
that you can make the best decision.
Exactly. We want to look out for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, good. Well, Demelza, thank you so much again. And is there any parting words or any things that you have coming up later this month that people should be on the lookout for?
Oh my gosh. So I just want to make sure that the women that are listening to this podcast, uh, from the amazing Mimi, okay, that you understand that it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is possible with consistency and drive, the same amount of drive that I know that as Black women, and just as women, period,
Yeah.
but definitely as Black women, that we have to pursue, a better life, and to want
Mm-hmm.
more for ourselves and our families. It's possible. And if you base your conversations in love, and in recognizing that maybe your parents, uh, you know, just want to be given a reason to try,
Yes.
then you'll be able to keep going, and you will find the strength to have these conversations, and really, uh, you know, live the life that you both want to live. I really just want to leave
Exactly.
with those encouraging words. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Um, I really also want to encourage everybody to go to my website or my YouTube
Mm-hmm.
channel. I am a vlogger, blogger slash
Hey.
vlogger,
Yeah.
and we have a bunch of series, excuse me, including caregiving, how money is emotional, and we're going to keep
Yeah.
going with these series. And so, if you really want to get into more, please follow me on YouTube, Parental Wealth on YouTube, and
Yes.
follow the blog as well. So, really appreciate your
Yeah.
time, Mimi. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Absolutely.
I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
me too. I appreciate your time. I love your Tuesday talks, talking about money on Tuesdays,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And
Talk Money Tuesdays every
that's right.
Tuesday.
That's right. Yeah. And then February, I know with Black History Month, there's going to be some empowerment and some powerful
Yeah,
things that are
absolutely.
coming
We are
forward. So,
talking about decolonizing retirement. I'm so excited.
yes.
I am a Black Panther fan like you would not believe. But I'm so excited about it, because I think it's so important that we kind of open up that third eye of awareness. Like, how is
Hmm.
this retirement working for us and working for the culture? Not how are we trying to shoehorn the culture into that retirement. And I think that that is something that's very important. So thank you
Yeah,
for
it's
that
going to be
reminder.
popping.
Absolutely. So many things going on.
Exactly. So, as always, listeners, when Improper Mimi has a guest on, we love to bring you hot information information that can help you, information that will help to build you up. Like we say, we love to empower women at home, work, and play. So I just want to encourage you all to take that step, just to kind of reach out, do something different, something like we talked about today that's going to benefit your family, both your parents and your children and yourself. Always think about yourself too. So that's it for now. So keep telling those Black stories, and we're going to keep on listening to each other. Thanks.